Good morning, Axel. Morning, Elma. Good morning, Simon. Thanks. Morning, Einar. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Maybe there will be a few latecomers popping in, but that's okay. Morning, Özge. So you can see my abstract right there on the screen. You read it already. And before we get started, I just want to kind of get your ideas. It's really related to what happened with the NG 410. So go ahead and type an emoji in the chat box about that represents. How would you feel if you were told to build a full English undergraduate course in about 2 months? So this means and includes designing a curriculum, figuring out the objectives, doing the syllabus, arranging the assignments, assessments, getting a course book, giving teachers directions, but also staying within the guidelines and parameters of the school. Yeah. Those are some pretty good emojis so far. Linton. Pam is excited about it. The next course we can give to Pam. Cool. Those are some good emojis. I like Donald's. That's probably how they felt. I wasn't the one who had to deal with this, by the way. It was Naji, Keith, and Nesrin. So, all right, cool. So let's go ahead and get started. So the outline of my presentation will look kind of like this. So I'll just give a brief background about ENG 410, and then I'll discuss. Yes, Donald. You can't see anything. Okay. Can everybody else see something? That's an operator error, Donald. Yeah, operator error. So so then I'll kind of introduce more details about my project and what I did, the methodology, what I found, discuss it a little bit, and then kind of looking ahead on the course, and then all of that and its impact on me. So this was the timeline of the course. But before we get started, actually very quickly, I just want to say a quick thanks to a couple people. So especially Bahar Gün, because she was my tutor, my PD tutor, so she was really helpful. Also to Ezgi Akçalan, because she helped me with SPSS, and also to Ainur and the other 410 teachers for helping me with the project, helping me with the direction of the course, Lyndon and Axel for their help. So everybody was really a part of this. It wasn't just me. So again, this is the initial timeline of the course. Way back in 2017, there was a Senate decision, and then the decision was made that there would be continued English courses for third year and fourth year students. And so you can see that there wasn't really a lot of time. So the timeline probably more accurately looks like this. But the two teachers and the advisor, which again was Keith and Naji, and Nesrin, they only had about 2 months to put this together, and they also had to finish this before the holiday time came. So I'm not exactly 100% sure about which months this happened in, but regardless, they had about 2 months to build the course, and they didn't really have a lot of time, so they really relied heavily on a similar course that was run by ODTÜ, so Middle Eastern Technical University, and they used their curriculum, their syllabus, and their course book as a huge sort of foundation to get the course up and running in such a short amount of time. So this is what the first semester sort of ended up looking like. And you can see the different percentages here, the sort of outline of it. It was available for 3rd and 4th students, and we also used ODTÜ's book, which you can see at the bottom there, the compass. And Keith was the coordinator of the course at this time. Then he left, he retired, the lucky man, and I was asked to become the coordinator of the course. So come the following semester, I made some pretty immediate changes for a few different reasons. You can see the statement of purpose turned into a job application form, and I also created a supplemental student booklet to sort of fill in the gaps of the course book itself, because ODTÜ had created the course book for themselves. We didn't exactly do what they did, so we needed to sort of bridge that gap a little bit. And then from spring to fall, there were a few more changes. A few different things changed, some percentage weighting changed. There were too many assignments, it was too loaded for everyone involved, so we reduced it a little bit. The second half of the course wasn't really assessed in any way, so we put an online quiz in there to sort of handle everything that happened after the midterm. And then again, the next semester, not really much change, but we did update the student booklet. We consolidated some of the topics a little bit. And then we get to why we made those changes. So I did not make these changes just on a whim. It was over the course of these 2 academic years with more informal feedback. And if we especially pay attention to these ones, we can see why immediate changes sort of needed to be made. We really needed to better meet the needs of both the students and the teachers, sort of restore balance, if you will, because it was a mandatory course, but it was pretty loaded. So you can see the students, there was just too many assignments. There were some parts that didn't relate really to the Turkish context, real life. There was too much paperwork for the teachers. We also had real big issues with plagiarism for some of the more major assignments, like the statement of purpose. So these changes were made as the semesters went on, let's say. And I collected this type of feedback with student and teacher comments, like in the hallway or after class, especially from teachers during course meetings and also from the student evaluations. And so from spring 2019 into last semester, fall 2019, you can see that the outline of the course didn't really change, but we did have a new book. So this was an in-house material made by myself with the help of Ainur and especially Lyndon and Axel. And then the course also changed to being only 4th year students. And so for me, having looked at all of these changes that was made over the past 2 academic years, I was kind of left with some questions. So is the course better now in some way? Are the changes that I've made and the material that I created, is it having the intended effect that I hoped for? Do the students like the new book? Do repeating students like the new book? So this was a really good opportunity because there were some students who were repeating the course who took the course the previous semester and had a different book. So I really wanted to get in touch with those students to compare their experiences with both course books. And then also, you know, how have I developed thanks to these sort of things? So I tried to answer these questions in a more formal way by conducting student surveys, focus groups with teachers and students, surveys of teachers and students, and also a teacher feedback form. And so this here is the student survey, and we administered it in the fall of 2019. It's more formal feedback. That was my aim. And we did it in week 13, so it was near the end of the course. And about 342 students out of the 651 students that we had answered the survey. So there were 20 questions. There were some demographic questions and also some questions about the course and the course book itself. And then I entered very laboriously those 342 surveys into SPSS and analyzed 35 pages of data. And I did frequency tests with them as well, with this data, as well as some crosstabs and some t-tests. So for those of you who are not really familiar with this terminology, frequency is really, it kind of tells you how many students chose each option. And then crosstabs shows a relationship between different variables. So in my case, how many boys and girls chose each option and how many repeating students chose each option. And then for the t-tests, the purpose of a t-test is to determine the likelihood that a relationship between two or more given variables is caused by something other than chance. So that would mean that there's some sort of statistical significance. So in my case, it would help determine whether or not gender had an effect on the answers, or if whether or not the student was repeating had an effect on the answer. So if we look at the frequency tests first, you can see the survey right here. These were the multiple choice questions about the course in general. Again, 342 students answered this, and here you see some percentages. These are the percentages of the 342 students that chose agree or strongly disagree. You can see it was a pretty positive feedback, especially like questions 4, question 5, even question 8. So you see question 4, it's organized in a well way, in a good way, let's say. Question 5, this one was really important for me. It helps the students in the real world, they could see that connection, 89% of them. But then we also had question 8, which showed that only about 78% of the students were found it interesting, which is understandable. There's nothing really exciting about cover letters or, you know, job application forms. We don't really need to have a party for that sort of thing, but still, it is exactly, Richard, positive feedback overall. And then we also had some open-ended questions. So these were some of the things that the students wrote about question 10, which is, I think, the course biggest strengths are. So a lot of them saw the connection to the real world. They saw how it would benefit them in their future. They learned about themselves. They learned about the job application process. They felt more comfortable with some of these things because they're going to see these after graduation no matter what. But also, I really liked this one. It was actually a pretty common answer. So it made me feel good, and knowing, and I never doubted, but I knew that the teachers were doing well with the course too, and that the students could see that. So this was question 11 about maybe a criticism. Maybe that's not the best word to use, maybe a opportunity for growth or something like that. But this is what they said: class hours are too long, and midterm is difficult. And now some of them feel anxiety about the future. Sorry. And they want more speaking. And they also thought there were too many assignments. So some of these things we can change. Some of these things we can't. But it's still good to know kind of what their mindset is. And then these were the frequency of the remaining questions. And these were questions about course material, specifically the new book. And you can see for question 12 that they didn't really like the appearance. They thought that some of the pictures were maybe a little bit childish, or they didn't really like the outside cover. So that was, 69% thought that it looked all right. But we had question 15, which really is the more important question, that the material helped make them feel prepared. And that was the 90% there. So that made me happy all in all. And then we also had some more open-ended questions about the book, about the new book that Ainur and I had created. So the things that they like best, they like the name. That's great. Some of them did like the pictures, and also the book that we used prior was all like black and white and blue. That was it. like gray and blue, essentially, is what it looked like. So I think they liked having colors, good examples, but then there were also some issues. I liked this one. There's too many activities, like do this and then do this and then do this. Like, yeah, well, that's a course. And then they didn't like the outside. They liked the inside maybe, but not the outside. And then some of the pictures didn't really end up looking the way we thought they would. Yeah, when it was actually published. So the quality perhaps didn't really turn out that way. So then we also had the frequency for question 18. And this was a question that only repeating students would answer. And there were only 17 students repeating the course. And this was a question that sort of compared the previous book that they had used in the last semester and the new book that Einor and I had created this time, and about 82% of them liked it better. So that made us feel really good. Then we also had crosstabs. So remember, this is one focuses on gender, so how many boys chose these answers and how many girls chose these answers. We have the breakdown here. So there were 342 students, 147 males, 195 females. And again, these percentages that you can see is the percentage of male and females that chose agree or strongly disagree. So you can see especially question 4, it was logical, right? That one was in the 90s for both of them, as well as question 7, developing skills for real life. And also, if we have a look at question 8, though, this was the one that scored the lowest, again, being about interesting stuff, so we can't always do things about that. And then overall, did they find the course useful? And you can see we had pretty good turnout there. I guess girls liked it more. So that was for those questions. And then we also had the questions about the course material. So you can see, I think especially questions 12, this one you can see also was the lowest. So again, the appearance had an impact on them. But if we also look at question 13, the course book helped me, again, pretty positive. And then we had question 18. Even though only 17 repeating students answered this question, I still broke it down. And you can see all of the females, all the girls liked the new book in a positive sense, and only about 77% of the dudes did. But still, pretty good. Anything above 70 is a CC, and that's passing, right? So that was pretty good. Then we had crosstabs for repeating. So these are the repeating students. This was the percentage of repeating students that agreed or strongly agreed here, and you can see especially question 4, question 6, all of them thought that. Yeah, definitely. Exactly. And that's the main piece of data that I took away. So we also had the course book materials. You can see how the repeating students felt. Or maybe they don't, right? Maybe that's why. And then we also did, I did a t-test. So this was, again, the likelihood that the effect of gender on the answers or the effect of repeating on the answers was more than just chance. And we found that there was no statistical significance. And we were kind of surprised by that. Even Ezgi was surprised by that. So there was nothing other than chance really involved here. And you can kind of see that with the similar percentages. I also had a focus group with students. I talked about 90 of them from 5 different classes, mine and Bahar Gün's. And these were some of the things that they had mentioned when asking for feedback, so positive things and negative things. Some of the students had even said 5 stars. Ooh, it really prepared us, maybe a little bit too much. Okay. And then I had the teacher survey as well, but that's at school and I can't really access it, so later. Yeah, too prepared. I also had the teacher feedback form that filled this out for every unit, but again, it's at work, so those results are to come. I did have a teacher focus group, though, with about 7 of the teachers during one of our meetings, and this was the information that they gave. They liked that there was plenty of activities to do now, but there's still too much paperwork, so But it was nice to hear their opinions, and we, of course, will consider that in the future. Now, looking ahead to the course, we're working on the second edition of the book, new appearance. That seemed to be a big thing for most of the students, so it's different now. Give the people what they want. More speaking activities, changing the repetitive activities, maybe being fully online in the future. We'll see, who knows. But then we also have, I'll skip that because we're running out of time. Thanks, David. And this was the impact on me. So seeing the importance of having like empirical data, official formal data, listening to the students and being more in touch with them, giving them what they want, but also trying to keep in mind the limits of the course and viewing it from other teachers' perspectives. Trying to find that balance was really important. And even just administering this survey, I got the order wrong. I put them on the wrong side or something. So it was confusing a little bit, but also getting positive and negative feedback is very helpful in getting direction, not just collecting feedback, but also doing something with it. And remembering, of course, teamwork, because all of the teachers, all of the teachers helped me. They took those surveys to their classes and administered them. So it was really wonderful. But also technical skills. I spent a lot of time entering this data into Excel, and Esky helped me with SPSS. So perhaps patience is the number one thing I gained. But this was a really wonderful experience for me as course coordinator. So thank you. That's it. Sorry if I went a little bit too fast there at the end, but 20 minutes breezes by. So if you guys have any questions,